The lighthouse keeper's secret? The sea was restless that night, whispering secrets to the wind as waves crashed against the jagged cliffs of Blackthorn Isle. On the edge of the world, where no man dared settle, stood the old lighthouse, its beams slicing through the darkness like a lone sentinel. Inside, Elias Caldwell sat in his wooden chair, staring at the flames flickering in the hearth. For 30 years, he had tended the lighthouse, his only companion, the ever-changing sea. He had seen ships lost to the abyss, heard the howling of storms that could tear a man's soul apart, and yet nothing unsettled him as much as the knocking on his door that night. It was a slow, deliberate knock, 3 times. Elias hesitated. He had not seen a boat approach, and no one came to Blackthorn Isle without reason. He reached for his oil lantern and made his way to the door. As he opened it, the light spilled onto the figure of a man, drenched from head to toe, his face gaunt, his eyes hollow. "Please, let me in," the stranger gasped, his voice barely a whisper over the wind. Elias stepped aside, allowing the man to stagger in. He helped him to a chair and draped a thick woolen blanket over his trembling shoulders. The stranger's hands, wrinkled and weathered, clutched at the fabric as though it were the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. "You came through the storm?" Elias asked, his voice rough from years of solitude. The man nodded. "Shipwrecked. The sea took the others. I saw the light." Elias frowned. He had not lit the beacon that night. The storm had rolled in too quickly, and he hadn't reached the tower in time. And yet, the man had seen a light. Silence hung between them, broken only by the crackling fire. Then the man spoke again, his voice steadier but filled with something Elias could not place read. "I've been here before," he murmured. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "Impossible. No one comes to Blackthorn twice." The man turned to face him fully, and in the fire's glow, Elias saw something strange. The eyes that had seemed hollow now burned with recognition. "Yes, 30 years ago. There was a storm like tonight, a shipwreck, and a man who saved me. But he," the stranger hesitated, his breath unsteady, "he did not survive." Elias's heart pounded. He had lived alone for decades. He had never saved anyone from the sea, and yet the truth lingered in the stranger's haunted gaze. "I was the only survivor," the man continued. "I never forgot his face. Your face." Elias staggered back, his breath caught in his throat. The wind howled outside, and for the first time in his long years at the lighthouse, he felt truly afraid. The fire flickered, casting shadows against the walls. The storm raged on, and the past, it seemed, had finally found its way home. A sudden gust of wind forced the door open, sending cold sea spray into the room. Elias rushed to shut it, his fingers trembling against the wooden frame. When he turned back, the chair where the man had sat was empty. The blanket lay crumpled, damp, and untouched. The room was silent, save for the soft hiss of the fire. Elias's breath came in ragged gasps. He took a step forward, his eyes searching the dimly lit room. No footprints on the wooden floor, no trace of the stranger. It was as if he had never been there at all. A deep unease settled in Elias's bones. He turned toward the lighthouse tower, his gaze lifting to the beacon above. The light was burning now, bright and unwavering, though he had not touched it. It shone out into the storm, guiding a ship unseen, calling to something beyond the mortal realm. A whisper brushed against his ear, carried by the wind. "Thank you." And then, it was gone.